What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So last year, there were actual talks around a PlayStation 5 Pro, which was pretty funny considering the PS5 just came out and it was hard to find. And it still is. Well, instead it looks like Sony could be looking towards other ways to improve the visuals and even ray tracing on this current PS5 system, and we're going to go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a game that has leaked early, but it's a bit of an odd situation compared to other game leaks. And we're also going to be going over Elden Ring's initial sales in its first week, as it looks like it's off to a pretty fast start. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Tokyo Game Show 2022. It looks like they will be returning to a full physical event, which is great news because over the last several years, it does appear that some publishers were a bit more unsure about if they should be taking part in these events, considering they can just stream it themselves online. That's the biggest thing we've seen with E3. But we can see this posted up by Gamatsu. It says Tokyo Game Show 2022 will run from September 15th to the 18th in Japan as a physical event for both business and general visitors for the first time in 3 years. And obviously, this is exciting stuff because we're at least getting back to a more normal setup for some of these larger events that, yeah, they need to have large physical venues for them to even make sense now in the digital era where, as I said, these larger publishers can save quite a bit of money by just streaming themselves on YouTube or Twitch and announcing it on Twitter. At least this way you can have face-to-face interactions, and that does help for things like indie developers maybe cutting deals with publishers or just random crossovers and backroom dealings happening. So it's exciting to see this start to come back here, and we can look forward to a fully built out Tokyo Game Show later on this year. Also, we do have an update for PlayStation Now games for the month of March, and there's one release in there that's kind of interesting. We can see this posted up over on PlayStation blog saying PlayStation Now games for March: Shadow Warrior 3, Crisis Remasters, Relicta, and Chicken Police. Now, the big thing here, obviously, is Shadow Warrior 3. All of these games are available right now to play on the service. You can download them onto your system natively. Shadow Warrior 3 comes out today. Like, it is out, and this is a day one release into PlayStation Now. I'm not sure necessarily right this second if this is just the PS4 version, but based on PlayStation Now just being PS4 games, I assume it is. So that might be a bit of a hang up there. Although, again, I'm unsure necessarily about Shadow Warrior 3 and the extent that it takes advantage of current gen systems now with the PS5 and the Series X. It says optimized for the Series S and X, so I assume there's some sort of optimization for the PlayStation 5 as well. But either way, if you have PlayStation Now, it's pretty cool to see a third-party game just get dropped in there day one. Certainly adds some more value to that subscription service, and this is on the apparent build-up to when this Project Spartacus thing gets announced, and that might be a good route for Sony to go in. If they can't put their first-party games on PlayStation Now day one, they could look to third parties, cut some deals, and get them into the service immediately. Oh, and we've talked on and off and joked around Silent Hill having some sort of comeback, a big announcement for a remake or a new entry in the series, and obviously that would involve Konami, who apparently forgot to re-up whatever they had in place for their silenthill.com domain, as it looks like it lapsed and somebody bought it. At least that's the story going around right now. If you go to silenthill.com currently, you can see it is a cut tweet from Ito saying, "I wish I hadn't designed Pyramid Head." Yeah, you know what? I tend to believe that story because it's Konami. That's the reasoning, right? That's it right there. I don't think there's any more explanation needed. So we'll see if Konami just gets this URL back and puts it back to normal. But at least at this time, they don't care enough to even do that. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony, the PlayStation 5, and ray tracing. Now, the PS5 Pro, I assume, was really being talked about because obviously gamers or just consumers in general, we're looking for the next thing. All right, the PS5's out. What's next? Doesn't necessarily need to be that way for some of these systems because I think we are running into diminishing returns overall. I think as long as you can get 60 FPS and even upscaled 4K, that's pretty good for most people. But ray tracing is something that was talked about heavily leading up to the release of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and I just don't think it's really impressed people to what they were hoping. Well, it does look like we are starting to see some movement there when it comes to maybe optimizing the PS5 a bit better for ray tracing and actually using it maybe more often. We can see this over on Game Rant. Mark Cerny and Sony patent new systems for accelerated ray tracing on PS5. Sony files a patent for the new system to speed up the rendering of real-time ray tracing on PlayStation 5 while also taking pressure off the GPU. If we take a look at the patent, we can see here titled System and Method for Accelerated Ray Tracing. There are quite a few diagrams that they have just to illustrate it a bit further. Although I feel like most people are going to read through this, and it's very literal to the point where they will just repeat the same thing over and over again and be very specific when it comes to the method of achieving just, I guess, better ray tracing, or at least running better and taking, as I say, pressure off of that GPU. We can see the publication date was February 24th, 2022, with the international filing date being August 19th, 2021. And we can see the inventor listed is none other than Mark Cerny. And I think ray tracing was something that was hyped up a lot heading into these consoles release in 2020. And unfortunately, it just hasn't lived up to that hype, mostly because it hasn't really been used in any meaningful way. I mean, we have seen games like Ratchet and Clank use it in its fidelity mode. Spider-Man Remastered used it pretty well because it had the skyscrapers and you had your reflection and it looked pretty good there. But of course, when you turn on ray tracing, you cut your performance nearly in half. That's the biggest part there. So looking to optimize ray tracing is something that I hope would happen a bit better as we went through this generation, and it was a core component of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and even the Xbox Series S, as we've seen it use ray tracing in things like Watch Dogs Legion. Now, the good news here, and one of the most exciting parts about this, is now that it is part of these consoles currently, you would see people like Mark Cerny or engineers at Sony or even at Microsoft work to optimize better for ray tracing, which is something that I'm sure even AMD and other parts of the industry, like even Nvidia, could look at and say, oh, wow, okay, that's a good idea. Let's kind of pull from this and let's build on that. And we would get, I guess, an accelerated movement towards ray tracing becoming more usable. I know there are people who play fidelity mode and it's 30 frames, and it's fine, but when you move up the performance and it's 60 and okay, maybe that puddle doesn't look as shiny or the wall isn't as reflective or something, you kind of look past that after a while. So I'm hoping ray tracing gets to a point where it's optimized enough to where it can just be a standard and we don't really have to think about if it's on or off necessarily, which would probably mean that you would have developers use it more meaningfully in their games. So I'm kind of hoping that seeing these patents pop up where we see Mark Cerny working to optimize for ray tracing means that we will get to that point sooner rather than later, and it could mean that they're not expecting to have a PS5 Pro anytime soon. I mean, do we really think that in 2023, because the PS4 Pro came out 3 years after the PS4, that was 2013 and 2016, do we really think that a PS5 Pro is going to be released in 2023 when the PS5 itself is not on store shelves at all and it's impossible to get at MSRP? I'm thinking not. In fact, I think this is going to be a longer generation than people are expecting. So here's hoping they can optimize a bit better going forward, especially with some of those first-party titles that generally look very, very impressive from Sony. Next up, let's talk about a big title coming out this Friday that has leaked early. It appears that Amazon shipped out Gran Turismo 7 a week ahead of time. In fact, people were posting images on Twitter showing that they had the PlayStation 5 box art and everything. But anyone who's posting up actual images in-game or videos, I noticed that they were getting pulled down, and it said due to a copyright claim and strike and all of this. So I'm not necessarily going to show you images that were being posted up on Twitter from early copies, but there was something that people noticed. We can see this. This was listed over on PSU.com from Reddit saying, did the music rally stuff while it was downloading, so 3 cars on 3 tracks, just finished the opening cinematic, and about to start the real game, I was able to go to the car dealer, get a car, go to the garage, and that's it. I was surprised by how much I was able to do, despite it not being released yet, though. I mean, you need to be online for this game to work, right? Or the vast majority of it to work, so even though the game goes out early, until Polyphony and Sony flip the servers on, right, that switch, you're not really going to be doing a lot. So I guess in one aspect, it's better for them because they're able to control it much more. And that's one of the biggest things we've talked about previously when it comes to the digital or the all digital era. Much more control for these publishers, right? When it comes to releasing games early by accident, this one would be on Amazon. Otherwise, if an all-digital release got out early, well, that'd probably be on Sony. Oh, and the strange thing around this leak is this is a game where you're not really going to have anything spoiled for you. Like, there's no massive story going on or anything. So this is a game that people would probably be happy to take a look at the leaks and the spoilers, seeing all the different cars and, yeah, the spoilers on the cars themselves. But that's kind of it's an odd thing to think about here. The game leaks out early, a bunch of videos and stuff pop up online, and people don't do the normal thing. We're like, I don't want to see it. I want to make sure I don't have any story shown to me early. It's not there. You just go and check out some of the cars. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the fact that there are going to be hundreds of cars in this game, you're probably not going to see them all anyway. So in at least some of the early footage that gets out there. But I am excited for Gran Turismo 7. It's just getting difficult because it comes out right next to Triangle Strategy. I'm playing Elden Ring right now, and then I have to go back and finish Horizon Forbidden West. There's just too many games to get through. Oh, and Shadow Warrior 3 came out. I really like the second one, so I want to get to that eventually. And then Kirby's out at the end of the month. There's just not enough time. Next up, let's talk about Elden Ring and its first couple of days here on the market. These are out of the UK, and Elden Ring released on Friday, so maybe 2 or 3 days were tracked here. But as expected, it is the fastest selling game in all of the Souls series. We can see the charts here, with number 1 being, yes, Elden Ring. Horizon Forbidden West got knocked down to the 2nd spot from Elden Ring releasing. Then Pokemon Legends Arceus, which has been hanging in there in the top 3 basically since it released. So that's pretty good there for Arceus. And then we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because why not? FIFA 22, Call of Duty Vanguard, Dying Light 2 Stay Human, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Minecraft on the Switch, and then Grand Theft Auto, The Trilogy Definitive Edition, which, by the way, we know has sold over 10 million copies, and it actually went from 14 up to 10. So I'm telling you, some of these publishers are probably realizing that even if you release a busted game, you're probably still going to sell enough copies to make it worth it just based on the name itself. Anyway, let's talk quickly about Elden Ring and how well it did compared to the best-selling game before it, which was Dark Souls 3. Elden Ring has actually beaten the boxed sales by 26%, which is probably more impressive than it sounds, since back in 2016, people were buying more physical games, whereas now it is certainly skewing more and more over to the digital side. And this is very, very impressive, though, for FromSoft overall, since I have a feeling a lot of people are buying this game who maybe don't play Souls games much, and they hear all the hype and the excitement around the review scores, and they hear it's an open world game, and then they get it and they realize, no, wait, this is still a Souls game. And yeah, it's gonna kill you over and over again for the most part. But I am having a blast with Elden Ring currently. Now, looking at the split between the Xbox, PC, and PlayStation, on the PlayStation platform, 80% of the box sales were there. So yes, certainly a very PlayStation-centric market here when it comes to the UK and Elden Ring. But while Elden Ring had a great opening week, the same unfortunately can't be said for Grid Legends, which came in at number 18. It's tough because I feel like Codemasters had an interesting idea for Grid. I just think right now a lot of people who are looking for a racing game are probably looking at Gran Turismo 7 coming out this week. And then, I mean, this game came out right alongside of Elden Ring, and everyone's talking about Elden Ring right now. So, hey, Grid Legends, I'm sure will eventually go into EA Play, and maybe EA will write it off as being a great addition for their subscription service going forward. But Elden Ring, off to a fast start, completely expected with all of the hype and excitement around this big open world style Souls game. And I do expect it to become the best selling Souls game, and I think it's going to do that pretty quickly. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the end of an era for the PlayStation 3. Technically, it was still kind of going on because Sony was actively repairing these systems, at least in Japan. Take a look at this tweet here from Ask PlayStation Japan, saying after sales service will be discontinued on Saturday, April 30th, 2022, due to the exhaustion of parts inventory for the PlayStation 3 CECH 4300. That's that super slim model that had the sliding top series and all PlayStation 3 peripherals. If you're considering applying, please request as soon as possible. So there you have it. If you're in Japan and you need that super slim PS3, or I guess your DualShock 3 repaired, You want to get that sent in and get the ticket and all of that done. I mean, I know a lot of people probably didn't realize that Sony was fixing PlayStation 3s still, but a lot of times you'll see these companies continue to fix these older legacy systems for years and even decades at times past when they've released. And the PS3 was no exception, but yeah, eventually you're gonna run out of parts. There's not much you can do, especially with the big thing I'm sure that'll be going wrong with the PS3 like this would be the Blu-ray drive, and they would have moved on to the PS4 and then the PS5 now, and eventually they won't have disk drives in their system. That's probably gonna happen next generation whenever that starts in like 10 years or something from now. But yep, like I said, the end of an era here for the PlayStation 3, at least officially in a couple of months. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, now that Steam Deck reviews are live, are you interested in getting one? 13% said yes, I already have it pre-ordered / getting it ASAP. 39% said yes, but later when they are easier to get. And then 48% said no, I'm not interested. I've also seen some people say, hey, you know, when the next Steam Deck comes out, I'll pick it up then. And that makes sense considering Valve's basically admitted, hey, this is our first shot at something like this, and it's going to take time and feedback for us to figure out how to improve this going forward. So the OS obviously will improve as feedback comes in, but the hardware side, that's going to be a little while. Either way, though, it's to the point where it's like, where are you in the queue if you already have it pre-ordered and you're just going to end up waiting? I think it'll be really interesting when this is finally on store shelves in places like Best Buy, for example, and how well it can actually sell to, I guess, the more casual audience. Is this something that will just specifically be for hardcore PC gamers, seeing it as a nice companion system, or could this actually be something that people pick up as an entry point into PC gaming completely? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Cameron saying, have we noticed that Nintendo didn't announce a new Nintendo 64 game the day of Majora's Mask release, breaking the pattern of announcing the next game the day the previous game gets released? Could this mean the end of monthly releases, slowing down to a more staggered, irregular release schedule? No, it just means they're not ready to announce that GoldenEye is coming to the service because they gotta wait for Microsoft to announce that GoldenEye Remastered is happening. Then they'll drop the tweet. Actually, no, I'm not really sure what's going on with Nintendo in that, because they at least held up a pretty loose schedule where it was like, hey, Banjo-Kazooie's out, Majora's Mask is next, you know, that kind of thing, right? So there's a list of games that we know are coming because Nintendo showed us during the direct or the presentation for that the expansion pack. And I know like Kirby's in there, Pokemon Snap, F-Zero, I think there's another one too. So we have an idea as to what's coming. We just don't exactly know when they'll announce it, but all they've really done is just tweet about it. They're like, hey, here's the next game coming up. So that can pretty much happen at any time, and really it's anyone's guess when. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Mark Cerny working to optimize ray tracing a bit more for the PlayStation system. Do you think they're gonna forego a PS5 Pro and just specifically work on optimizing for this current PS5 system a bit more? Let me know about that. And then also, what about this Friday with Gran Turismo 7? Are you picking that one up? And then Elden Ring is off to a fast start. Did you pick it up, and have you been playing it? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.